Hey guys, Torsar the Barbarian here with another sports talk video. It's kind of a slow sports day. Didn't really like any of the things to talk about, so I'm going to dig up one of my ideas that I've had for kind of controversial topics. I got a few on the back burner. This is the one that I wanted to start with because you know, it's going to be a little bit controversial. And that is Kobe Bryant is not a top 10 player of all time in the NBA. Now, I know a lot of you Kobe stans are going to be out there going, oh my God, Kobe. Some of you even have him like number 2 all time. It's just like, all right, you're a fan of Kobe. That's fine. You're looking at things subjectively. You're just looking at all the good moments. You're looking at the persona. You're looking at the attitude. And let me make something very clear before I start. For one, I loved Kobe too, all right? He was never my favorite player, but if you're an NBA fan and you watched him play, I mean, how could you not appreciate what the dude was doing, okay? He was great. And to say he's not top 10, that doesn't mean I'm pooping on him and saying he's like 23rd or something, all right? If I made my top 20 or something, I'd probably have him 11th or 12th or something. Barely out of it, okay? But, I mean, some people just have him way too high. They have him in their top 5s. If you want to have him in your top 10 and you have him like 8th or 9th, okay, that's fine. You're not wrong for that, okay? But all I'm saying is I'm not sitting here and trying to hate on the guy, especially in his passing. R.I.P. Kobe, we all loved you. Like I said, if you were a fan of the NBA and followed from the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, all the way to when he retired, there is no way you didn't develop a sort of a long-term parasocial relationship with him where you felt like you knew Kobe. Like Kobe was around my age. I grew up with Kobe. We both matured. I saw the guy grow. I saw the Colorado incident and him handle that so well. I saw him have the second successful phase of his career after Shaq left. I mean, the guy he was an all-time great. He just wasn't a top 10 player, all right? Now, my main reason for saying this is that no other player, if you look at all the other top 10 guys, especially the guys, I don't really want to reach back into the past before the NBA ABA merger too much because there just weren't as many teams in the league. You can't compare a team finishing, 7th in the West in the 2000s to someone finishing, there wasn't even like a 7th in the West to finish, I mean, it was just like how many teams were there when Oscar Robertson was playing and Bill Russell was playing. Those guys have so much success and put up such extreme numbers, and that's why a lot of people have them in their top 10. And like I said, that's one of the reasons where maybe Kobe and can legitimately and objectively slip into some of your top 10s because you just don't want to deal with someone like Oscar Robertson where you didn't watch them play and you have really no idea how to like judge them compared to today's players. All right. There's some things about Kobe that are definitive, no questions asked facts though. One, he was the reason Shaquille O'Neal was jettisoned out of LA. Okay? You didn't like Shaq. You didn't like his work ethic. You made the Lakers make a choice. It's either me or him. And especially looking at today's NBA, that's just pure insanity. Like, guys are like trying to get people to play with them. Guys are trying to do their best to recruit people. And meanwhile, Kobe's like, what? The most dominant guy ever in NBA history? Get him out of here. All right? Now, these are the records. 3 years. This is a 3-year stretch after Shaq lost, okay? Or after Shaq left. 3-year stretch. The first year, 04-05. 34 and 48, they finished 11th in the Western Conference and did not qualify for the playoffs. This was when Kobe was how many years into the league? This isn't first or second year Kobe, all right? This is prime Kobe after winning 3 NBA championships and going on 2 other deep runs, had just lost in the NBA Finals. He jettisons Shaq, makes the Lakers make a choice, me or Shaq. They chose Kobe. Correct choice. They chose Kobe. All right, 11th. Could you ever imagine LeBron James, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, any of these guys? I don't even care. You could take away, with LeBron, you don't have to do it because he didn't have anyone else. You could take away Worthy, Kareem, McHale, Parrish. Maybe they weren't winning championships, but do you think they're ever finishing in the prime of their careers 11th in the Western Conference and not even close to making the playoffs? I mean, 11th is 14 games under 500, okay? You say, oh, well, Torsar, that's just 1 year. They had a horrible record. All right, well, what about the next year? They improved to 45-37, 7th in the Western Conference. They lost in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. The year after that, 42-40. They regressed. Still the same placing, 7th in the Western Conference. Lost. Western Conference, first round. Then he tries to force his way out of LA by saying, you know what, get me some help or trade me. Now, what's better? To try to force your way out by strong-arming your organization that traded for you on the draft night. So pretty much they drafted you, okay? You strong-armed them to get rid of Shaq. Then you strong-armed them once you played 3 whole years with the players you had around you, probably because you thought you could do it yourself. You were too hard-headed to try to ask them before that to get you some help. And then once you got sick of it, you finally broke down and threatened. Anyone who remembers that time, that was an ugly phase for Kobe. He told them, trade me. He was demanding to be traded. So they said, whoa, Kobe, we'll get you some help. In comes Pau Gasol. In comes Lamar Odom. The very next year, they lost the NBA Finals, which that's still pretty successful, And then from then on, champions 2 years in a row, okay? Now, here's the other thing, especially for you people who think Kobe's better than LeBron, all right? Now, what's probably the biggest stain on LeBron's career? Now, first off, I think the way LeBron handled leaving Cleveland was better than the way Kobe handled staying in LA, all right? When he got sick of it and knew he didn't have enough help, he just left, okay? Instead of trying to strong-arm his organization. Now, maybe that's because this was the Cleveland Cavaliers. He didn't like the owner, which, that was kind of validated after he left. And comparing the Cavaliers to the Lakers is just like, that's just, whatever. Separate situations. All I'm saying is I like how LeBron handled his lack of talent, who, by the way, his lack of talent, he was still pretty much every year one of the top seeds, if not the top seed in the Eastern Conference, and made the NBA Finals probably when he even shouldn't have. Not too many guys lead a team to the NBA Finals. What was it, his 3rd year in the league? I mean, that was just they were doing pretty successful. So the biggest stain probably on LeBron's career, everyone always brings up that Mavericks series. Oh, that Mavericks series. Oh, man, he was so horrible. All right, he was horrible, but let's not act like that Mavericks team was a bad team, all right? Because think about it. Who did they beat just to even get to the NBA Finals to play LeBron? They beat Kobe Bryant's defending champion LA Lakers in the 2nd round of the Western Conference playoffs. And then they beat KD, Russ, and James Harden when he was still in OKC in the Western Conference Finals just to get to the finals to then beat the Miami Heat. That was a very good Mavs team. All right, it was loaded. It didn't have multiple superstars after Dirk, but it had Hall of Fame veteran Jason Kidd. Maybe he wasn't in the prime of his career, but considering he was a point guard, a ball distributor, his skills still carried over very well. They had 5 double-digit scorers that year, and that roster was laden with B and higher talent tier in the NBA, veteran players, all very good players. Some of these guys could have been starters on other rosters, or could have been even, you look at guys like Caron Butler, Sean Murray. I mean, that team was, if you look at their roster, they were loaded. The problem with LeBron in that series is that his averages were just so much worse. Like, LeBron into and onto himself just didn't play good. Never mind that the Heat lost. That was the problem that people have with that, is that LeBron didn't play good. But if you're going to trash LeBron so much for losing to the Mavs, you have to throw Kobe Bryant into that too, because he lost to them in the second round that year. They beat him too. All right? So to sit there and say he's a top 10 player, you know what? I just don't think people are being very objective about that. I mean, like I said, if you want to look at all the other top 10 players, I mean, you look at like a Tim Duncan, Shaq, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. I mean, none of these guys had stretches like that in their career. They didn't play for as long. Some of them, Shaq kind of tailed off at the end of his career. But even at the end of his career, man, I mean, I know he was getting injured and, they didn't have the best roster. But 14th in the Western Conference, 14th in the Western Conference, 15th in the Western Conference, 14th in the Western Conference, 11th in the Western Conference, 10th in the Western Conference. This is what he left them? Okay, that last year I said the 10th, that was the first year LeBron joined. Okay, but man, there was a 5-year stretch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 14th, 15th, 14th, 11th. And these are the same years, years in the league-wise, that LeBron now is taking first in the West, NBA champions. Okay? Last year, we all know the injuries, and they were still 7th. Even the year before that, first year, wasn't his roster. 10th. Bunch of injuries, not just to him. There's just find me the guy in the top 10 that you have that has a stretch in their career like that. All right? Now, like I said, this isn't completely crapping all over the guy, saying because don't get into that because I said he's not a top 10 that I think he's horrible or I wasn't a Kobe fan. Okay, he was a great player. He's an all-time great. It's just if you look at the numbers and you hold him to the same criteria that other people have been held to, I just don't see how you can be objectively. I don't see how you can objectively say that Kobe Bryant's a top 10 player in the NBA. And if you are, like I said, it's because you are a fan of him, a fanatical fan. You are putting the definition of fanatical into fan, okay? And let me tell you, a lot of people like that Mamba mentality. Most of you like that Mamba mentality, you would not have wanted to play with Kobe Bryant, all right? He would have sent you home crying every day. All you guys saying Mamba mentality. Nah. You're soft. You wouldn't have wanted to play with Kobe, and you know what? You saw it in the Jordan documentary, because for all you younger guys who didn't grow up in that era and don't remember that, you got to see how Jordan was. Did he look like he was fun to be with at practice every day? Did his teammates look like they were having a fun time goofing around and palling around with Jordan? I'm not saying he was a bad teammate, but if they hadn't have been winning, he wouldn't have been able to get away with all that stuff because guys would have that's the only reason they stayed together is because they were winning. And you saw the same thing with Kobe Bryant. He was the same way. You know why? I know how this works because I'm the same way. I'm not saying skill wise, dude. I am nowhere near skill wise what Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan was. But I'm that same way in real life. Very demanding, brutally honest. I hold people to high standards because I get held to a high standard. And you know what? I can say from personal experience, most people don't like that. I even had a boss at one of my jobs one time tell me that, and she apologized afterwards. It was in the heat of the moment. She said she really didn't mean it, but she said she would rather work with someone who wasn't as good as me and was more receptive than have to work with me and constantly butt heads because I didn't agree with what we were doing or whatever. You know, like people don't want to deal with that. And the only time you get away with it is when you're successful. All right. So this thing with the Mamba mentality, please. Most of you have no idea what Mamba mentality is, all right? You've never gotten into that tier where you go from the 85% of efficiency into the 95%, all right? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's your average gym nut who's down at the gym and he looks like he's in good shape. Those are the 85 percenters, all right? The IFBB pro bodybuilders, those are the guys who have pushed it to that next tier, to that insane work level. And that's what Jordan and Kobe were always asking of guys, trying to push guys into that 95th percentile because they get what it took to get there. They got that. All right? So be a fan of them all you want. But I'm telling you, you wouldn't have wanted to play with the guy. You wouldn't have wanted to play with Jordan. The Mamba mentality isn't all it's cracked up to be. All right, because most people, they don't have that mentality. That's a rare, unique, special mentality. It's not easy to be that type of person whatsoever. Trust me, I know. Okay? This one is obviously very open to debate. There's never going to be a definitive answer. That's why I just like look at that 3-year stretch after Shaq left. Horrible. Horrible. I don't care how bad the roster was. If you're that good, if you're an all-time top 10 player, you don't have those finishes in the Western Conference like that. I don't care how tough the Western Conference was, this and that. 11th? 11th in the Western Conference. That was the year after Shaq. Okay? Then the way he tried to force his way out of LA, him losing to that same Mavs team that everyone criticizes LeBron for losing to. Explain that stuff. That's all I'm saying. Explain that stuff and then find me the other guy who's considered a top 10 player who has stretches of their career and marks on their career like he does. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Drop a like if you like the topic. Leave a comment. Drop a sub if you want to see more. I'll be making videos just about every day. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.